Rising abruptly from the Great Salt Lake Desert, the Newfoundland Mountains are a remote, rugged, and beautiful expanse of our public lands. It is the only true island mountain range encircled by the Great Salt Lake Desert salt flats, where they stand in stark contrast and offer a remote and solitude-filled experience. Hiking, camping, exploring old mining camps, and high desert vistas make the drive to get to this desert wilderness worth it. Hi everybody. Yesterday, which was Friday evening, we decided we were going to come out and check out a place called the Newfoundland Mountains. Now, the Newfoundland Mountains are one of the only true islands within the Great Salt Lake Desert, and you got to do about 2.5 to 3 hours of driving to get out here. It is quite remote, but this place has turned out to be really nice. Today is the first day of autumn, and the temperatures out here have been pretty nice. This is someplace, if you are going to come out here, I would suggest doing during this time of year. It can be really hot and it's very dry out here. There's no water around here, no springs, none of that kind of stuff. But where there is some fantastic camping with great views, like this right back here. I'll make sure I put down the coordinates of this area that we're in, because you'll actually find there's a lot of different areas around here that you can camp in. But with this area, we're right up against all these granite boulders, and you've got a nice view down the mountain range. That highest peak over there is Desert Peak, and we are going to do a hike up there later on today. This has been a really nice spot to camp. Really enjoy it here. We'll take a few minutes and we're going to go and hike up around in these boulders up here, kind of check it out, get some nice views of the scenery around here. It's a very beautiful place and it's very quiet. The only thing we did hear this morning was the train, because the train tracks run way out there on the other side of the salt flats. And there was a train that came by this morning, but that was just a few minutes of noise. Other than that, it's been incredibly quiet out here. To get here, you're going to take I-80 west until you get to exit 62, which is the turnoff to the military area and a place called Lakeside. You'll want to turn left onto the Puddle Valley Road and head north. About 15 miles down the road, you'll get to the Utah Test and Training Range, which is a major facility for the Department of Defense. There are fences with periodic no-entry signs lining the roads, so you'll know when you're going to be through the training range, and if you stop, you might receive a visit from base security reminding you of where you can't be. Once you've passed the training facility, you'll keep following the road until you get to a gravel mining operation and Lakeside, which is where the railroad tracks meet the causeway across the Great Salt Lake. From there, you'll take another left onto the dirt road that runs adjacent to the tracks and drive west for close to 25 miles. When you get to the stop sign, turn left, head south, and there are the mountains. There's a little arch or a window right up there in those rocks. And you can see where we're camping right there, so you're actually right by it, but you'll have to come up here to see it. All right, so we got up here to this really nice campsite here. This is our view out in this direction. Up to the north over there, that is the Raft River Mountains. Over here we have the Grouse Creek Mountains. As I pan around over here, the big mountain in the distance is Pilot Peak, and you can see a little bit of water with the sunlight reflecting off of it out there in the Great Salt Lake Desert. But this campsite was really nice. The road to get up here is a little rough, and you're definitely going to need a four-wheel drive and high clearance. And that will get you up to this spot where we are here. Now, unfortunately, just past this, it gets really dicey, and we had to stop here. But there are at least 3 good campsites in this area. This one has a nice fire pit that we're going to use tonight to cook some dinner. And it was a nice flat area. We've got great views of Desert Peak, and you can kind of see the road heading up to the pass. We're going to head up there tomorrow morning, and you get to check out more of that. So we have this really nice campsite up here, and the sun just went down. Got a really nice view out here, the silhouette of the mountains. You can see some reflection off of some water out there. That's out in the middle of the Great Salt Lake Desert. And it's really nice out here. Got this fire pit that was here at this campsite, and we're going to start up a fire here, and we are going to cook over the fire tonight. We're going to do shish kebabs. So we've got a couple of skewers and some meat and vegetables in the cooler. We're going to cut all that stuff up and put them together and roast it over the fire. All right, shish kebabs. It's pretty dark though, Lisa. Well, good morning, everybody. Got things packed up this morning, had breakfast, and we're going to head up to Desert Peak here. We just drove up this road a little ways. There's some pretty tough obstacles coming up here. You want a little bit more vehicle than I have to be able to get around some of them. So we parked right back there. It's pretty easy to get up here. Got a good camping space here. Where we're camped is an excellent place. You have another spot over there that's pretty good and flat. So, you know, there's quite a few different options you have when you come up here to, if you decide to come out here and hike this. But it is a gorgeous day today. Sun's out. It's supposed to be in the 70s again. Should be a nice hike. Yeah, and this is that part that, you know, you need a little bit more of a four-wheel drive vehicle than I have. I might be able to do it, but those are some pretty big boulders. So we walk from here, and it is about 1.5 miles up to that pass up there. And then from there, I think it's about 1 mile to the peak, so. This small stone cabin is the last building standing on what was once Boston Terrace, the only town in the Newfoundlands. It has since fallen into disrepair, and it looks like it's slowly going away. The roof has collapsed, floor rotted away, windows broken. It looks like this rock was just put together using mud for mortar. This window says Indian family, 1976. Maybe that was the last family that owned this. The mining in this area was loosely associated with the Box Elder Mining District, which was formed in 1866. Prospectors first trickled into the area in 1871, and the Newfoundland Mining District was organized in 1872. There were several areas of major mining activity, with the largest one being Miners Basin, which is where we are hiking. Now, Boston Terrace, which was settled in the 1860s, was no different than any other mining camp of the era, with few permanent buildings. Lean-tos and shanties for the mine laborers and short-lived inhabitants were common at the time and not built to last. Light prospecting and mining development continued to gain momentum until 1900, when ore started shipping. By 1905, the Boston Terrace area mines were listed in the Copper Handbook, which was a professional publication detailing the active copper mines of the day. At the time, there were 11 claims producing respectable amounts of copper, lead, silver, tungsten, molybdenum, and gold. And for the next 50 years, the mines would continue to produce trace amounts of precious metals at the hands of die-hard prospectors and miners. By the 1970s, commercial mining had all but ceased in the area, and very little of Boston Terrace remains to this day. Remnants of several mines and the rock cabin that we saw earlier mark the spot that was once the epicenter for mining in the Newfoundland Mountains. We made it up to the saddle, and this is the view right here from this pass. There's another road that goes up here, and when I was looking on Google Earth, there's more mine tailings up on the top of this. I'll pan around over here, and you can see all of the road that we just came up and the old mine tailings, and there is the peak, and we've got to kind of scramble up this up to the top, and then you can kind of see that bench over there. It's a little too steep on this side, so we're going to have to go up around, and then we'll get on this kind of level area, and then we'll make our final ascent up to the peak. Now, I left Isabel and Raven back down there. Raven is almost 13. He's been really slowing down this last year, so we have not been able to really go on any long hikes with him. He did pretty good getting up here, but the rest of this is just going to be Doug and I. You know, like I said, this is just route finding. I mean, it's relatively easy. You just got to follow the ridge, stay away from any of the steep cliffs, and you shouldn't have any problem. We made it up to this shoulder. I'll pan around a little bit here. You can see the Great Salt Lake Desert. I can see the Stansberries in the distance, the Wasatch. Pan around over here. You can see the Silver Island Mountains and Pilot Peak. It looks like somebody came up here and did a little bit of prospecting. And I think I see why. This blue-green material is copper. I'm guessing that they didn't find any commercially viable amounts, and that is why this has remained just a small excavation. It's impressive that somebody hiked all the way up here with heavy tools and started digging around. As I've been hiking up to the peak, I've been seeing these areas. It looks like something was laying here, and by the looks of the scat, I'm guessing this is from bighorn sheep. Now, I didn't know that there were bighorns out in these mountains, but by the looks of them, this is prime bighorn habitat. They really like this kind of terrain. One of the nice things about this hike is that we have really good cell service. So I looked it up, and yes, there are bighorn sheep out here in these mountains, and according to my quick research, the population is a little over 300 animals. Like many of the areas in the West, bighorn sheep were hunted out of existence in much of their native range. But starting in 2001, efforts to reestablish a population here in the Newfoundland Mountains began. Initially, they brought in 31 animals from Antelope Island, which is an island and state park in the Great Salt Lake, and Heart Mountain, which is in northwestern Nevada. Since then, there have been 2 more transplants, bringing the total number of bighorn sheep transplanted to the area to 34. And since then, they have established a viable population here. We are almost there. That was a little steep back there. Some spots you kind of had to scramble, but that's how it goes. Gorgeous views though. Well, there are some outstanding views from up here. I mean, we're talking 360. You can see pretty much everything around here on a clear day. This is the highest point in the middle of the Great Salt Lake Desert. This is Desert Peak, which is about 7,000 feet above sea level. And I'm going to pan this around, let you guys check it out. All right, everybody, Desert Peak, highest point in the Newfoundland range here in the Great Salt Lake Desert. We are going to turn around and head back down. We're kind of thirsty. Lunchtime already came and went, and I didn't bring any food, so we're going to head back down and go get us some lunch. So we came up on this little road here. I'll put the coordinates to where this spot is, but this is a pretty nice spot to camp. It's relatively flat here. And you are right up against all of this granite right here, which is really cool looking. We're gonna walk over here and check this out. This is a really great camping spot, and it looks like somebody's been busy building a little rock wall. Maybe they were going to turn it into a shelter or something. It looks like they had a fire down in there too. There is a dirt road that continues up into this valley, and I would imagine if you wanted to explore more of it, you're going to find some nice camping sites up there. I really like all of this granite rock here, and it makes a dramatic backdrop for the campsite. On our way here, I noticed that there was another section of nice granite wall down that way, one that you can drive up to the base of and camp. This is looking to the northeast. You can see some of the Great Salt Lake Desert lake bed and the railroad tracks in the distance. All right, so we're going to head around to the eastern facing side of the island here. There's another mining camp over here, still has some equipment left, so we're going to go check that out. The Newfoundland copper mine, sometimes called Copper Flat, was an ultimately unsuccessful copper mine established on the north end of the Newfoundland Mountains after the Newfoundland Mining District was organized back in 1872. Now, I couldn't find much information about the years of operation, and I checked on minedat.org and the Western Mining History website, but if I had to guess, it was probably around the same time as places like the town of Boston Terrace was established and the Desert Flower Mine was active. If you do happen to know, please leave it in the comments section below. I'm curious about it myself. These days, like many of the old mining areas in the Newfoundlands, all that is left is a few rusting vehicle parts, weathered timbers, rusty equipment, and a lot of history. Looks like something has made a nest in there. So that is the southeastern side of Desert Peak. We were going down this road a little ways here trying to find a campsite. There's not a whole lot of promising campsites without driving a long ways down. That's a little bit farther than we wanted to go today. So we're going to go back here and explore one of these little side roads that might take us up to some place where we can hang our hat for the night. All right, so we found that really nice campsite back there, kind of at the foot of Desert Peak. And if we spin this around, you can see the Great Salt Lake Desert. Today's a pretty nice clear day. I can see Deseret Peak and the Stansbury Mountains, the Cedar Mountains. As we pan over here, you can see further on down the Newfoundland Mountains. But this place worked out pretty good. It's doesn't look like there's been too many people that have camped here recently. Still is a pretty easy spot to pull off. We've got a great view. We took the drone out for a little while, so I'll have some nice drone footage for you here. And yeah, this area is really nice. Good morning, everybody. We had a really good night here. It's really nice and quiet. We got everything packed up. We're going to head back up the road. There's some old cars and some other remains of some old mines we're going to take a look at. And then when we get done, we're going to take the road back out to I-80. But on the way back, there are some other interesting things, and we're going to stop and take a look at an interesting piece of history for those of us that live here in northern Utah, especially if you grew up here or you lived here during the 80s. So we'll see you guys in a bit. This right here is the Great Salt Lake pumping station. During the spring of 1983, Utah experienced one of the wettest winters on record. Previous years saw record precipitation, and in the latter part of 1982, summer rains continued through the fall. Rainfall eventually turned into winter snows and, in the process, saturated the ground beyond its capacity. What was left in the spring was an unusually large snowpack that was waiting to release its moisture down the mountain streams. Now, in normal years, the snowpack melts slowly due to air temperatures that gradually warm through late June. This particular season experienced a very rapid warm-up that created an equally rapid snowmelt and high runoff that overwhelmed local streams and turned the streets of Salt Lake City into rivers. All of that water had to go somewhere, and that somewhere was the Great Salt Lake. Between 1983 and 1988, the lake level rose 12 feet and was wreaking havoc on the surrounding areas, rendering parts of I-80 into a wave-lashed shoreline and seriously undermining the foundation of the then newly rebuilt Saltaire Resort. At some point, the state government figured something needed to be done. At the time, the thinking was the lake could keep rising and could cause more costly infrastructure damage, so they decided to dredge a series of canals and build a pumping station that could move water from the Great Salt Lake into what is called the Newfoundland Basin, where it could evaporate. This is the west side of the pumping station and the canal. This canal runs west along the railroad tracks for another 4 miles or so. Now, you've probably seen the pictures circulating online of that brilliant blue-colored canal that people would be kayaking in. This is not it. This one, of course, is a really nice blue color, but that particular canal in the picture is actually closer to Wendover and I-80 than it is to here. The state built this huge concrete structure to house 3 pumps capable of moving massive amounts of water for around $60 million. And they did it in less than a year. The pumps were first started on April 10, 1987, and they ran until early June 1989. When the pumps were operating, they would move about 1 million gallons of water a minute down the canal and into the basin to the west. In a little more than 2 years, the 3 pumps brought the lake level down more than 2 feet. Let's go and look at the eastern side. And they really want to keep people out of here. This razor wire is pretty sharp. Very different color to the water on the inlet side. This is the part that comes from the lake, but it's really brown and brackish on this side, whereas the other side is that nice blue color. The 3 massive pump engines take up most of the room in the building, and the state spends about $10,000 a year to keep the pumps in shape in case they are ever needed again. According to my research, the pumps are actually disconnected from the engines and would take a few months and a couple of $1 million to get them reconnected and running again. The building also houses some office space, storage, and a break room and kitchen, which has become a kind of unintentional museum. There are historical photos of the construction of the pump station, as well as the 6 miles of channels that were dug to and from the pumps. Well, thanks for watching, and I hope everybody enjoyed this adventure to the Newfoundland Mountains. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you would like to see more videos about hiking and camping on our public lands, consider subscribing to this channel, and you can join us next time for another adventure. And if you would like to see pictures of our adventures, you can join us over on Instagram. We'll see you next time.